Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Um, this is something I've been thinking about a lot for quite a while, and I could have sworn I made a video on this, but I couldn't find one um, on the channel, so I'm going to make one. If I have made one already, I apologize for repeating myself, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Also, the title of this little thing, Why I Don't Help My Father-in-Law, is a bit misleading. You could say clickbaity, but it wasn't my intention. I just couldn't think of anything else to name it that was short and concise. Um, I do help my father-in-law, but I don't help him as much as I could. For some backstory, my father-in-law lives next door with my brother-in-law. Um, my in-laws had retired to Florida many years ago, um, over 25 years ago, maybe around 25 years ago. Anyhow, they retired to Florida a couple decades ago, and when they were up here visiting during the summer, Dad had to be hospitalized. He was 90, and he and Mom both realized that, if something happened to them like this while they were in Florida, they wouldn't have any backup because all their family lives up here. So they decided to pack everything up in Florida. Actually, they sent uh, um, my wife's older sister and my wife's older brother, both went down to Florida with my mother-in-law, packed up the house, drove everything up here, put their house down there on the market, and now they've lived with my brother-in-law next door for the last couple of years. He's currently 93, and we do try and help him, but I don't help him as much as I could, and that is actually by choice. I know someone, or past tense, knew someone who retired at 65 and then sat in a chair and watched television for the next 15 years until he died. He would get up in the morning, sit in front of the television. His wife would cook him breakfast and bring it to him in his chair. He would eat his breakfast. She would wash the dishes. She would then cook him lunch at lunchtime, bring it to him in his chair. And at dinner time, she would cook him dinner and bring it to him in his chair. The only time he got up during the day was to go to the bathroom. When we would occasionally go over to visit them, he would get up and have dinner at the dinner table with us, but as soon as dinner was over, he'd go back and sit in front of the television in his chair. He was in his chair when we got there. He was in his chair when we left. And he might have dinner with us, but he'd go back to the chair, and then his wife would bring him dessert in the chair because she always made dessert when there was company over. And maybe when it wasn't, I don't know. She always made dessert. But this man sat in a chair and decomposed for the rest of his life after he retired. He did nothing else. And he wasn't a lazy man. He wasn't a bad person, or I think it was just he didn't know what to do when he retired. He didn't really have any strong hobbies. He had worked his whole life. He ran his own company, eventually sold it off, built him and his wife a small little retirement home on some land he owned, and then didn't have anything to do and didn't know what to do. And, he was intelligent. He told interesting stories about the stuff he'd done when he was younger, but he just didn't. I don't know, because I never really asked him. I was embarrassed to ask him. I would, tell me, my wife and I would talk about it, and just like, man, he just sits there, he doesn't do anything. But, and I worry about over helping my father-in-law because I know that it's good for him to be up and mobile. Now, he's not the type of person to sit in his chair all day long and do nothing. I mean, he does sit more than he used to. He naps a lot. He's 93. He's got congestive heart failure. He's got like stage 2 or 3 kidney failure. He's 93. He gets out of breath easily. So, I mean, if Dad wants to take a couple hour nap every day, that's fine. And he's also a putterer. Dad's the type, he's the type of guy that, he wants to do things for himself. So it's not like, I have to fight to get him to do anything. He, a couple weeks ago, my mother-in-law was like, "Do you know what your father did?" He was over like in our forest out here picking up dead branches to use as kindling, and we don't care. This used to be his family's land. He was born on the farm. He's welcome to it. But he got out of breath, had to sit down, you know, and get and find a way to get himself back up because he's again 93, but had to struggle to get himself back up off the ground. When he sat down on a rock, it's actually harder to keep him from doing stuff he shouldn't be doing. But yeah, it's one of those things where like I'm treading a fine line of helping too much. I don't want to help so much that he stops doing things, even though that's not entirely likely. I could get the mail for him every day, but I know he likes walking down to get the mail. Same thing with, I could bring the trash barrel down to the curb for him once a week, but not something that he wants to do, but he feels responsible for it. He thinks it's like his job. He doesn't want his son to do it. He wants to do it. I mean, and Kenny's younger than I am, so it's not like, my brother-in-law's, an old man either. So, he feels it's his responsibility. It's his thing to do. He wants to do it. So there are things I could do for him, but I know it's better for me to not do some things, both physically and mentally. If I did too much for him, he would lose a sense of independence, and I wouldn't want to do that to him. He is a fiercely independent person. He still continues to. This has happened before too, where my wife will call out to me. He's like, "You'll never believe what my father's doing." He's like, "What's Dad doing now?" He's filling the wheelbarrow with wood. He's filling the wheelbarrow with firewood. It's like, I'll get my shoes on. So I'll go over and toss a bunch of firewood in the wheelbarrow, wheel it into the garage, and stack it up for him, because it's like he still keeps trying to do this stuff. So yeah, I could, I don't always know what to offer and what not to. We do help out. Like I said, I'll go help him with the firewood. I'll bring wood up from the basement, from the garage into the house, bring a couple loads up when we go over. So we do help out when we can. But I also know that he'd rather keel over dead being active than sitting in a chair all day because I helped him do stuff. He'd rather be up and doing these things for himself. It's better for his health, it's better for his well-being, it's better for his soul. And so, I don't help my father-in-law as much as I could, but I still try. Good hunting.